So, like I was saying, I haven't just like I kind of want to go mage, but if we recruit a really top-notch mage, I can go lock and just play lock at a high level, anyways. Either that, or I will go on to like if we recruit a warlock, we actually need two. Then I can play mage. I've already leveled the mage up to 70, and I've got this warlock that I'll have 70 probably in a couple of weeks. So I'm just kind of gonna go and look at the content that WillE's put out here. If you guys aren't familiar with WillE, he's one of the best content creators for classic World of Warcraft, all the way from vanilla all the way through Wrath of the Lich King. So, anyways, you can. Oh, don't worry, Raz. It didn't play on. Well, I've got this video up, anyways. So I'm gonna look at the mage one now, and then tomorrow we'll probably look at the warlock one, and maybe that'll just kind of put me at the where I'll make up my mind, and I'll be like, no, I'm definitely playing mage, or I'm definitely playing warlock. But we can take a look at this video while I'm sitting here flying around. Let me get rid of the sound here as well. See what WillE has to say about mages.
If I had to describe them in one way, expected to be on the weaker side until midway through tier 5 content. And
what would you guys prefer to play, mage or warlock in Wrath?
Then needing a lot of support to really do well as Arcane. Well, the needing support part.
By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, guys, go to WillE's channel. Make sure if you're not following them, you subscribe to his channel. I'll have the links and stuff all down below. If you're watching my channel and you're not following him, you probably should. He's really got great content.
Has been true, but Mage has been one of the most consistently high-performing classes throughout the duration of all of TBC. Moving on and upwards to Northrend then, an expansion where casters in general do very well, it should come as no surprise that mages have a lot to look forwards to. So let's talk about the Mage in Wrath of the Lich King Classic. Let's begin as we do with our baseline changes. So for Mage, it probably has the least changes from TBC to Wrath out of any class I've looked at so far. Arcane Blast gets a little rework. It still increases its costs as it stacks, but it no longer decreases the casting time of subsequent Arcane Blasts, and instead now applies a 15% stacking arcane damage buff, which will stack up to 4 times, and this buff will drop off when you cast any other arcane spell than Arcane Blast. Invisibility no longer gets removed when you're phasing out from taking damage. Evocation goes from a 8-minute cooldown all the way down to a 4-minute cooldown, and
that's nice, and you can spec into it, so I believe it's only 2 minutes.
Can make it even better through talents.
It's like,
the amount of mana lost when absorbing damage through Mana Shield has been reduced. Mage Armor now reduces the cooldown of all magical debuffs on you by 50% in addition to previous effects. Slowfall is castable on group or raid members, and you can glyph it so it doesn't require a reagent as well. And new ranks of Conjure Food also conjure items which restore health and mana at the start.
You guys are saying Warlock, huh? 2 of you for Warlock, no one's suggesting Mage? I was kind of looking forward to going back to playing Mage, to be honest.
Same time. New to the arcane tree is Mirror Image. This summons 3 copies of yourself which cast Frostbolt on a target, which is just a decent damage cooldown on a 3-minute cooldown. Dalaran Intellect, Brilliance, and Polymorph Cat are all buyable from a shop just on the left of the Violet Citadel inside Dalaran if you ever find yourself having a bit too much gold. Each of these just adds a different spell effect to what they already do. Over in the Fire spellbook, Molten Armor gains bonus crit scaling from Spirit, and a new spell is Frost Firebolt, which benefits from both frost and fire talents, opening up some mage hybrid possibilities. It never really took off in original Wrath, despite it being tried a lot. Maybe we'll see some new experimentation these days. Over in the Frost spellbook, nothing changes. Yeah, I said mage didn't have all that much different. But fun fact here, because I don't know where else I can put it in the video, did you know you could glyph water elemental so that it lasts forever, but can't cast freeze anymore? I had no idea you could do that because nobody ever seems to, but it might be fun when you're questing though, always having a pet out. So
you're saying Mage?
Checking out.
I had originally thought about going to Mage because Mage, I wanted to be able to play just focus on one character in Wrath, and Mage has always been such a good farming character as well that I didn't have to worry about having an alt to farm gold with. Then they nerfed the hell out of Mage farming, and now it's like, well, is there a point in me actually switching classes? People are used to me. Another aspect that I like is that I really like the idea that I can, really blast things for some high crit damage on stream. I think that's maybe a little bit more exciting than watching someone just dot things up. So that was another bonus to actually going to play mage as well. But now they've severely nerfed your ability to farm gold as a mage. I don't really have to ever worry about gold because I've got 11 tailors. So I literally make all my gold and then some just through tailoring. But I thought if I ever needed to farm some extra gold, it would be fun. It would be better to have a class where I can actually do it, just kind of pre-plan for it. But then they nerfed the mage's ability to farm gold. So now it's kind of like, do I want to switch or do I not want to switch? So that's kind of why we're humming and hawing. And now that's why we're watching the videos.
Some talent trees when it comes to raiding as a mage. Now, like a bunch of other classes, you should expect there to be two main talent trees that you end up exploring. Those are Arcane and Fire. Arcane should be the one that you play early game into Wrath, so we'll start on that. Arcane stability now finally gives you some consistent spell knockback avoidance across the entire tree. Focus Magic is a new ability that places a 3% crit buff on an ally, and when they crit, you also gain 3% spell crit too. Student of the Mind is new and gives you some more spirit scaling, though missed out here due to earlier levels of gear. Improved Arcane Explosion has been changed and renamed to Spell Impact, which now just increases the damage of a whole bunch of your different spells. Magic Attunement, in addition to its previous effects, now also increases the range of arcane spells by 6 yards. Your Arcane Shielding spell has been updated to provide better baseline defenses and reduces the amount of mana it takes to maintain mana shield by a lot. Torment the Weak is another brand new and super important talent for all areas of content. In fact, you're kind of forced to pick this up for PvE, whichever spec you opt.
Pyroblast, Arcane Barrage deals. See, you know what? I've never really played Arcane aside from today in my fresh Mages First ZA. I even had to go respec. Like I'd never actually played Arcane before, so I'm not used to actually playing. I played Mage in Classic, so I was Frost and then Fire, but never had a reason to play Arcane. So it's kind of new to me.
12% bonus damage for your big filler spells against
it's
snared
pretty easy
or slow
though, but
targets, and that slow includes attack speed ones such as Thunderclap. Arcane Power goes from a 3-minute cooldown and 30% bonus damage and mana cost to 2-minute cooldown and 20% bonus damage and mana cost. Arcane Empowerment adds a huge chunk of extra damage to Arcane Blast and missiles and also provides a 3% raid-wide damage buff, not half bad. Arcane Flows reduces the cooldown.
Do Arcane Mages still have mana issues in Wrath, or is that more or less resolved? That's another issue as well that kind of annoys me with being a mage is the mana issue.
On your big spells by a significant amount and puts evocation down to only a 2-minute cooldown, which is insanely good.
I guess having the evocation at 2 minutes is probably helps a lot with that though.
For Arcane, Missile Barrage finally makes arcane missiles useful in PvE for the first time ever. Now your spells have a chance to make your next arcane missiles free and fire 2 times as fast. This is super fun to fire off and it procs all the time.
That's pretty neat. What was that? What was the name of that ability? Missile Barrage.
Free and fire 2 times as fast. This is super fun to fire off and it procs all the time as well. Netherwind Presence is just a whole bunch of spell haste, and at the bottom of the tree is Arcane Barrage, our brand new main ability. In Wrath, it's a super short cooldown.
Missiles at the enemy target causing
3-second single target nuke. It's good on the move whenever you need to reset stacks of Arcane Barrage and Missile Barrage hasn't procced, or just as a general filler. Over in the Fire tree, Incineration is taken for more crit damage on Arcane Blast, and the Frost tree is just there so we can get Icy Veins really to pump up that Arcane Burst phase. And even though we know Blizzard's going to be buffing Naxxramas, spikes in near to Abyss TBC gear are still going to be so short we can justify going deep enough into the Frost tree to pick up Cold Snap as well for that double Icy Veins. Arcane will use glyphs such as Molten Armor for some extra spell crit, as well as Arcane Blast and Arcane Missiles just for some extra damage. However, once we start to get a bit later into the expansion, crit gear becomes more readily available and you really begin to power up. It's at this point it's expected that mages make the swap over to Fire. This time it'll happen for sure.
See, that's one of the reasons why I kind of want to go Mage. I think just blowing stuff up like crazy as a Fire Mage would be a lot more fun to watch, a lot more fun to play and maybe a lot more fun to watch on stream as well. That's kind of one of the reasons why I'm really kind of favoring going mage.
Right, Fire also has a bunch of changes to cover in the talent tree that makes it a much better PvE pick. Just to mention the arcane talents quickly again here, it's really the same as what we've already gone over. You just want to pick up Torment the Weak because, hey, as it turns out, 12% damage is quite a lot. The rest, though, we're going to be looking into
There's
the
a lot of really
tree.
cool
Blood in
abilities in
Flames
fire, I
increases
think.
the crit chance and a whole host of different spells across all 3 specs. Improved Scorch has been reworked, now adding some
Sounds like I want to play mage. I do, but I also like playing lock. Like, I wish I had time for to play both. Like, I think it would be fun to go back to mage just to see the big numbers pop up on screen and stuff like that. I think to a lot of people it's just more like when you're playing a lock or whatever, and you see or watching someone play a lock and they suddenly get like a 12,000 crit or something like that. Like people on stream, they always comment, they're like, "Holy shit, that's a huge crit." You're not going to see that so much if I'm playing an affliction lock or something like that, right? So
spell scaling, and more importantly, no longer stacking anymore. Now, one Scorch will apply a 5% spell crit vulnerability debuff to the target. In
affliction lock though is actually a very challenging spec to play. So that might make it more fun, might make it more challenging. So that is another aspect as well. Like I'm not wanting to switch to mage because it's it's more of a one button class, because I mean it's not. It is definitely, Arcane Mage is definitely easier to play than Affliction Lock, but the primary reason why I was thinking of switching over is not for ease of play, but for farmability and being able to like have the huge crits and stuff.
Instead, Combustion gets a small change, going from a 3-minute cooldown down to 2 minutes, as well as now instantly giving 50% bonus spell crit, which continues to stack up until you've landed 3 non-periodic crits. Molten Fury gets changed to be 12% bonus damage against targets under 35% health, instead of 20% bonus for targets under 20%. Empowered Fire adds scaling to your big spells and makes it so basically you can't.
Does Berserk Racial do split raids? Can go both. No, I'm not doing split raids. There's no way. Does Berserk Racial benefit Fire or Arcane better? I would imagine that it would probably affect both pretty well. But needless to say, it's easily the best Racial for Horde, for Mage. So it's, that's basically, it's BIS for Mage anyways, so.
Go boom anymore. Well, between this
you're gonna take it no matter what.
That is, mages, like many other casters, don't have that mana problem that they used to, apart from Arcane, that is. That's the whole idea of the spec. Hot Streak is perhaps the biggest new talent in the entire tree that's been.
Let me score 2 non-periodic. See, this is where stuff gets fun with Hot Streak. When you get a insta-cast Pyroblast, like, that stuff is when Mage really starts to get fun, and that's why I'm like, you know what, I think that maybe actually just wrapped it up right there. Actually,
Been added for the Mage.
Hot Streak into insta-cast Pyroblast
will make your next Pyroblast become instant cast. This is why mages need that extra crit before they can really start to do damage. Towards the bottom of the tree, Burnout is a massive 50% bonus to spell crit damage, but spells cost 5% more when they do crit, which is a completely negligible downside. This talent is super good. Finally, your end of tree talent is Living Bomb. Place a debuff on the target that ticks down for 12 seconds, exploding at the end of its duration, causing high damage to all nearby targets. The explosion portion of the spell also counts towards Hot Streak. Overall, a super fun talent, gives Fire Mage access to even better AoE than they already have, and it just looks cool when a bunch of them chain together. Glyph wise, for Fire and PvE, they again use Molten Armor. Fireball, reducing its cast time as a little trade-off for losing the dot, is an easy decision, and a Living Bomb so the periodic portion can now crit. So how do we reckon mages are going to do in Wrath then overall?
Sorry, the T8 4-piece set bonus has a chance to not consume what the instacast Pyroblast? Is that what you're talking about, J Blanks? That sounds like it's a blast then. That sounds like that's a blast, actually. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know that because I hadn't actually looked at that stuff yet. That was kind of the set bonuses and stuff were stuff I was going to look at later to kind of maybe give me a final. But just the stuff like the Instacast Pyroblast and stuff like that, that just sounds like it's too much fun. And I think it would be a lot more fun to watch that on stream than me just clicking on targets and dotting them up and moving on to the next target, dotting them up. You know, like
Damn good is the answer.
Sounds like
this
a lot of
should
fun.
Be consistently near the top of the DPS meters. The only thing I'm curious to see how it plays out is when fire.
Do locks go affliction then demo, or demo and then no? You have one lock in your raid that is dedicated as the Demonology lock, and they stay Demonology. And you need to try and make sure that it's somebody that you can trust, whether it's an officer, the guild leader, whatever, raid leader, someone that you know is going to probably be in the raid for a very long time, because the first people that you're gearing up is your demo lock and your tanks. And so for your casters, you want your demo lock to get gear, because the better gear your demo lock has, the more damage your casters do as well. So you don't want your demo lock to be some new dude who you don't really know, and 2 months into Wrath, they might dip on your guild and take off, and you've geared up this guy, and now you got to start all over again. It's really important that you have somebody that's on a demo lock that really knows, that you can really trust is going to be around for the long run.
Will overtake Arcane. For TBC by the Sunwell, it was fully expected that mages are going to make the swap to spamming Fireball, but in reality, Fire just doesn't compete with the damage Arcane can put out. Sure, Arcane needs more help with innovates and mana tides and so on, but that's how many guilds have built.
Sorry, I missed this part. Hold on, let's go back to the here.
Crit. So how do we reckon mages are going to do in Wrath then overall?
This is what
damn good is the answer. This class should be consistently near the top of the DPS meters. The only thing I'm curious to see how it plays out is when Fire will overtake Arcane. For TBC by the Sunwell, it was fully expected that mages are going to make the swap to spamming
and then
Fireball,
they never did.
But in reality, Fire just doesn't compete with the damage Arcane can put out. Sure, Arcane needs more help with innovates and mana tides and so on, but that's how many guilds have built their raid to be by this point in time. If Wrath is anything like TBC, you may be stuck pressing the Arcane Blast button for a long time. Speaking of the two playstyles,
who was it that said that they played on Warmane on their private Wrath server? Are mages at like the end of the expansion in like for Wrath, are they playing Fire? I know it's a private server and it's not exactly maybe attuned properly. You play Fire? Did you play Fire spec for like later on, or are you guys like, I know it's not exactly perfect, but do you find that people are switching over to Fire? No, but what about for PvE like later on, like when you're going through Ice Crown Citadel and stuff like that? Oh, you're saying Fireball for Ice Crown Citadel 25-man gear? Okay.
And their individual.
And is it during Ulduar when you're switching over? Full 25-man heroic gear. So you might still be doing a lot more Arcane than might be doing Arcane for a lot longer than people are talking about. Like people are talking about like swapping over to Fire relatively early, like maybe second phase of Wrath is what a lot of people are saying. So
performance, Arcane is expected to be better early, and this has been true across many Wrath servers. Arcane simply has a huge burst phase at the start of a fight, and then can do it again every 2 minutes thanks to their talent reworks. But you know what they say about Arcane, it's probably the one caster that doesn't change much from TBC to Wrath. You really do just hold down the Arcane Blast button. Sure, Missile Barrage is a nice proc, but when you press that button, it's going to remove the 60% bonus damage your Arcane Blast is doing. However, when you make the swap to Fire, which I think will happen in Wrath by the way, it will feel considerably better as it now has Hot Streak. Again, it's pretty simple on gameplay, get 2 crits in a row, press pyro, repeat, but it's super effective at putting out damage, and by later on in ICC has historically been one of the highest performing classes in the game. Mage should have a specialization that can find itself performing well whatever phase we are in. Whilst the gameplay is pretty simple, it backs it up with huge numbers and very competitive single target and AoE. Which brings us on to PvP. Once again in TBC, mages found themselves as a very popular PvP choice. Notably, the Frost specialization was, as per usual, an absolute top tier performer. But before we talk Frost, I want to give a quick look at Fire as a PvP spec, because I think it's come a long way since TBC. Grabbing some talents here, I want to check over the new ones we didn't talk about yet. Burning Determination allows you to immune the next silent soul.
This was another thing that we were talking about, like why I kind of want to stick with Mage. Yeah, Warlocks are great for PvP too, but I just feel that Mage is a lot more fun for me in PvP. I enjoy PvP with my Warlock as well, but it was when I tried Mage for the first time ever in Classic. Like, I'd never ever tried Mage throughout all of retail, all the way from vanilla all the way until basically Battle for Azeroth. It wasn't until Vanilla Classic when I actually tried Mage for the very first time. And it was because we were going to a server specifically to PvP. And I was like, okay, I'm going to play Mage to help people level up and stuff like that. And then just absolutely fell in love with PvPing on a Mage. It was so much fun.
Interrupt after being hit by one. Impact has been reworked. It's no longer complete RNG on fire spells, and now makes it so any damaging spell has a 10% chance to allow your next Pyroblast to stun for 2 seconds. That's much more.
Palm Pyroblasting someone in the face looks like it could be a lot of fun though too.
Controllable and a lot more powerful. Molten Shields now affects both Frost and Fire wards, and the reflect chance has been increased to 30%. You can glyph either Frost or Fire ward to increase that by a further 5% too. Blast Wave, in addition to its old effects, also has a knockback added, great for arena where you can knock people off the edge or just to help with your kiting in general. Fiery Payback is a new talent which does a ton of different things. It gives a 10% chance to disarm the target when the mage is hit on ranged or melee attack. It doesn't say it in the tooltip, but I would assume this has a 1-minute cooldown because all disarms have a 1-minute cooldown. When below 35% health, all damage taken is reduced by 20%, and Pyroblast cast time is reduced by 3.5 seconds, but it now has a cooldown. This makes Fire Mage super dangerous once they do hit that low health. There's a reason Pyroblast doesn't have a super short cast time normally. Dragon's Breath gets mega buffed, now disorienting for 5 seconds, which is enough time to wind up a big cast or land a CC. And finally, Firestarter makes Flame Strike instant and free after Blast Wave or Dragon's Breath. Fire has had so many of the TBC issues addressed: better survivability, tons more CC, more utility, and even more damage. It should be a fun spec to mess about with, even if it is rather squishy, which is its main weakness. Because the majority of the time, much like it's been since day one of vanilla, whenever you see a mage in PvP, they're gonna be Frost. And man, they just keep getting better.
They're gonna be Frost, and more than likely there's gonna be a rogue somewhere around them as well.
The more expansions go on. Here's the talents, the standard in the Arcane tree really. In Frost, a bunch of the old mandatory 5-point talents like Shatter have been moved to 3 points instead, freeing up loads of talent points to explore the new tree.
Frost is just so damn fun to PvP with. I had so much fun PvPing with my mage in Classic. I loved it.
Cooldown on your big abilities such as Icy Veins by a whole bunch. Permafrost has been updated, adding a 20% healing reduction effect to your chills because hey, why not? Mages sounded like they could use a mini mortal strike effect on their entire rotation. Winter's Chill is changed to affect all spell crits against the target, not just Frost, but it does still stack up to 5 times. Cold as Ice is new and just removes even more cooldowns from your big spells. Shattered Barrier is another addition off of the Ice Barrier talent, a great new bit of utility, adding a guaranteed Frost Nova when your barrier breaks. Fingers of Frost is a new vital talent and is a complete game changer for the mage. Your chill effects have a 15% chance to grant a proc, treating your next 2 spells as if the target were frozen. Improved
this is
water elemental
so many fun
its
talents
duration,
in the mage.
Extra mana gains when
mage trees.
Frostbolt. Brain Freeze is another big proc effect for the mage. Your chill effects have a chance to make your next Frostfire Bolt or Fireball instant cast. More burst, that's just what the mage needed.
Exactly, just what we need.
Simple, just a bunch more damage on your big spells and even more chill effects. And finally, we have a talent at the end of the tree that's become iconic for Frost mages, Deep Freeze. A point and click 30-yard 5-second stun, but it does require the target to be frozen, unless you have Fingers of Frost procced, of course. During this 5 seconds, the target is both stunned and they are also frozen too, making it a guaranteed burst window of Ice Lances. Super powerful and versatile ability, and just another layer of burst and CC for the Frost Mage's formidable toolkit.
We
Frost
need
and
more
PvP uses
more
tools
CC
such
on the
as
mage.
Evocation to add a
More.
big heal on top of this ability, Ice Barrier for more absorbs, and Polymorph to remove damage over time effects when it's cast and allow you to make swaps way easier than ever before. As per usual with Frost Mages, you should expect to see them across a wide variety of comps and brackets, most notably being part of God Comp, which is Resto Druid, Shadow Priest, Frost Mage, or the inevitable RMP. Let's finish up on some tier sets. Tier 7, the Frost Fire Garb from a revamped Naxx, Eye of Eternity, and Sartharian's Lair. As per usual, love the tier 3 recolors. The 2 set makes it so you gain 25% more mana when using a mana gem and granting 225.
Yeah, I mean,
Spell power for 15 seconds. Hey,
nice,
look, it's Serpent
nice
Coil
bonuses
Grade on a tier set. As in, they literally copy-pasted the trinket and put it on a tier set.
Hey,
I mean,
neat.
this trinket is still used by mages playing Arcane in the Sunwell a few months in, so I'm going to go ahead and say yes, this is still very good. The 4 set is 5% crit damage bonus on all offensive spells. Again, that's a lot of bonus damage for free.
I was going to say, you said you use Frost in PvE and PvP?
Might be the first tier 7 where it looks genuinely really interesting and strong for both the sets. Tier 8 is the Kirin Tor Garb from Alodar. I'm just gonna say it, I know I'm gonna get a backlash for it, but the looks on this are just a miss. I don't know what's going on with the helm, and I prefer robes on mages. The set bonuses though,
I gotta agree with him. I don't think that looks too shit hot, to be honest. Why is he saying that he's gonna take crap for it? I don't think it looks great either.
those are something else. The 2 set is your main
Can't. Oh, this is the set you were talking about, right? No, that wasn't it. That's not it.
Spells have a chance to give you 350 spell power for 15 seconds. I went to check on the proc chance, and what we have available says it's 25% chance to proc, which seems incredibly high for how good this is, as in that's going to be up the majority of the fight. If this is correct, wow, that's an amazing 2 set. 4 set is a chance.
You said 4-piece? I thought you said it was Oh no, sorry, it's Hot Streak. Never mind. That's yeah, you're right. Sorry, my bad. But yeah, you can have it not consume your Hot Streak, and then just you can cast like double Pyroblast.
% chance to proc, which seems
that sounds too much fun.
This is, as in that's going to be
got
the
it.
majority of the fight. If this is correct, wow, that's
I'm glad we watched
amazing
this video
2
because
set.
I think
All
it's
set
like
is a chance to not
solidifying
consume the
me
proc
wanting to
effect
play
unique
Mage.
to
It
each
sounds like
talent
it's too
tree.
much fun.
This one said it had a 10% chance to proc.
But you know, typical Alodar, you know what's gonna happen? We're gonna watch the Warlock video maybe tomorrow or something like that, and then I'll be like, oh, this looks fun.
Which is not nearly as good as the 2 set there. Tier 9 is Khadgar or Sunstrider's Regalia from Trial of the Crusader. The 2 set adds various scaling to your armors. The one which you care about for PvE is Molten Armor. When it's glyphed on
Game for adds an additional 15% of your spirit in critical strike rating. Okay. Increase the critical strike chance of your fireball by 5%.
On top of this tier set bonus and its baseline effect, it should convert 60% of spirit to crit, which is actually a pretty huge amount, so this seems like a very good set bonus. The 4 set is 5% extra spell crit for all your big filler spells. Again, that's a lot of spell crit, and it seems to be a pretty good argument for really starting to think about fire here. Tier 10 is the Blood Mage's Regalia from Ice Crown Citadel. It looks okay, it just doesn't beat out tier 7 recolors for me though. The set bonuses, however, are again amazing. The 2 set makes your Hot Streak and other procs you don't really care about by this point in time give 12% haste for 5 seconds after consumed. You're going to be proccing Hot Streak a lot in ICC. This is a great haste modifier. The 4 set makes it so Mirror Image also causes you to do 18% additional damage for 30 seconds. This is probably one of the best tier sets I've seen so far. 18% damage during heroism when you can choose where it happens, on top of all the other cooldowns you can have running, is an incredible bonus. No wonder mages get so good by ICC with a tier set like this. The night
Sounds
we've
pretty
covered
fun,
PvE,
chat.
PvP, tier, and had a pretty good talk about how the mage is going to be. Can we give an answer to Mage in Wrath of the Lich King Classic? How broken is it now? Pretty damn broken, I'll tell you what. 2 viable, high-performing specs in PvE content. Hopefully Fire does overtake Arcane Blast sooner rather than later, because it hasn't yet in TBC. In PvP, they also get a range of viable specs. Fire gets Mega Buff. You could play Arcane, but it's not going to be as effective as the other 2. Frost gets even more CC, in Deep Freeze, a healing reduction through Permafrost, and even better Burst. You can also expect an amazing leveling class.
I gotta think that with those set bonuses that Fire's gotta take over, right? Like he's actually got me worried a little bit that Fire might not take over. Kind of the same thing that we saw in TBC. It's got to take over with those set bonuses, though, right?
And Dungeoneer out of mages as per usual. I think mages did get a little bit undersold in TBC, and perhaps that was a bit for the best, as you couldn't really stack them super hards in raids due to them being needy for external buffs.
So basically, as soon as we start doing, you have to wait till you start getting the gear from Alodar first, though, right? I just want to make sure that I've got my timeline correct here. Or are you starting to get the gear? You don't. Fire gear scaling is just crazy. Yeah, you have to stack. So you've got to wait until you actually start getting the gear from Alodar in order to switch, right? Or are you getting some of the gear beforehand and able to switch when Alodar comes out?
As Arcane. In Wrath, they need less group-specific help now that nearly all buffs are raid-wide. They're still going to want your druids innovate, don't worry about that, but overall are much more self-sufficient. It's a high performer in PvE and PvP content, and there just doesn't seem to be an expansion where Mage isn't a great choice for a main. And those are my PvE and PvP content, and they're just overall, now that nearly all buffs are raid-wide, they're still going to want your druids innovate, don't worry about that, but overall are much more.
Oh, that's something. How many druids are we going to have? They're still going to want the druids all iterate, although with 2, I'm going to have to look at the talent trees. With evocation going down to 2 minutes, isn't the talent for that in the arcane tree? I'm trying to remember. I think it's got to be, right?
It's a high performer in PvE and PvP content, and there just doesn't seem to be an expansion where Mage isn't a great choice for a main. And those are my impressions of the Mage in Wrath of the Lich King. If you're going to...
I think it goes down to 4 minutes, but you can I don't have to look at the PTR. I can just look at the like a website. But I'm trying to remember how far down into the tree it's a talent point that brings it down to 2 minutes, right? I'm trying to remember how far down you have to go.
Continue on and main it, it's looking like a pretty solid decision. As always, let me know whether you played one back in the day or whether it's going to be your main this time around. And thank you all so much for watching and listening in. I shall see you on the next one very soon.
Okay, so for those of you that are watching on YouTube or in my stream live, please make sure that you go to his channel, WillE. If you're not already subscribe to his channel, you should be. He's one of the better content creators out there, if not the best. Comes out with some really good content. Definitely give him a like. Subscribe to his channel. I think he's got me convinced that I definitely do want to go Mage. We're going to look at the Warlock video tomorrow probably. But I definitely want to take a look at a couple more things. You don't have mana problems as Fire. Okay, so that I don't have to worry about. You're just wanting the innervate for Nax then, and then once you switch over to Fire, you're not gonna have a problem. All right, so that takes care of that. So Fire sounds good, but I've been playing Warlock as well. I've played Warlock like most of the way through retail as well. So Mage was kind of a new thing for me in Classic, and I'm kind of itching to go back to playing Mage. So we'll take a look at the Warlock video tomorrow and get an idea, kind of make a final decision on what we're going to play. Anyways, if you're watching this on YouTube and you enjoyed the video, you enjoyed my commentary, please consider liking and subscribing. You can catch me on Twitch 6 nights a week from Tuesday until Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Eastern. Play primarily World of Warcraft at the moment. But we talk about anything nerdy, Game of Thrones, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and lots of gaming topics as well. So feel free to come over and join us there at twitch.tv/Alodar. We'll see you there and see you guys in the next video. I hope you enjoyed this one. Talk to you soon.